Good evening. On today's video, I'll be talking about Michael O'Connell Jr., or otherwise known as Mixie. He was born in Ballyduff House, 9th of June, 1887, a third son to Mary Ann and Michael O'Connell Sr. Mixie's father, Michael Sr., was a founding member and first secretary of the farmers-owned cooperative creamery, and Mixie was reared in a household of the cooperative movement and Gaelic traditions, which also piqued his interest in local and national affairs. In 1914, Mixie joined the Irish Volunteers. Then in January 1917, Mixie got married to Bridget Shelley of Parnell Street, who was the sister of Hugh Shelley, former Tipperary hurler. Shortly after the couple bought 24 Liberty Square, they started a family and a business, which became a public house/grocery store. And at that same year in July, Mixie's wife contracted an illness for a few weeks and died at the age of 32, leaving Mixie to look after a 4-month-old son, but his activities in the Irish Volunteers intensified. Mixie focused his time and resources on reorganizing the Mid-Tipperary Irish Volunteer movement after the Easter Rising, and used his public house/grocery store as a HQ for the Mid-Tipperary Brigade, and to accumulate arms for the Irish Volunteers from soldiers who came home on leave from the Great War by selling their weapons to Mixie. Now this story has other characters involved, as I should say, like James Latty of Bohlan. He worked for Mixie in 1917, aged 21, and he would later be elected Commandant of the 2nd Mid-Tipperary Brigade, with Mixie being Vice-Commandant. The public house/grocery store was also used as a dispatch center, and this is where Bridget Fitzpatrick, of whose family home was at the turnpike near to my birth, comes into the story. Bridget herself was living in Dublin, and she knew Richard Mulcahy and Michael Collins, and in 1918 she was sent to Thurles by the men and was named as the chief executive and courier. She was in charge of getting orders from either men, then relaying the orders to volunteers commanders in the south of Ireland. Mixie premises have been raided often by the RIC, like one such raid on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Had to put it in there, like Star Wars fan. The RIC came to arrest Leahy. He told the head constable, can he tell Mixie he'd be going to prison? The constable agreed and ordered one of his RIC men to go with him. Leahy went up the stairs, opened the door, then slammed the door in front of the RIC man, and he dashed out of the premises down to the river shore and escaped. Then he went on the run. In mid-1918, the volunteers were restructured and reorganized on a territorial basis. Before Mixie opened his business, he used to work in Molly's Hardware, and he still had the key. The business was used to store weapons and ammo, and whenever the weapons were needed, the volunteers would go at night to get the weapons. Now, in 1919, 2nd of May, Sean Hogan was arrested for his participation in the Solhebeck ambush, which started the Irish War of Independence, and he was taken to the RIC barracks in Friar Street, Thurles. It was understood by John McCormick Hogan would be transferred to Cork Prison, and with permission from Bridget Fitzpatrick to use her name as the centre to relay this message to Mixie. Bridget agreed. So Mixie got into contact with Hogan's comrades to come up with an idea how to rescue him. But while that was happening, the RIC barracks in Fire Street was watched by sympathizers to the Irish Volunteers. Then eventually, the day after, 4 RIC men brought Hogan to Thurles train station, and when Mixie was told about this, he went to the station to watch them to see what time train they were getting. The 5 men got on the 6:30 p.m. train to Cork. Mixie ran back to his premises to let Hogan's comrades know about the train he was on. The message said, "Greyhound on the train." Mixie loved greyhounds. Hogan was rescued in Knocklong, but 2 RIC men died in the shootout. After the incident, the District Inspector, Michael Hunt, led the investigation, and it didn't take him long to see who was behind it. Bridget Fitzpatrick was questioned in the RIC barracks in Thurles, Fire Street, but she was let go. But the RIC was watching Mixie, and he knew it. So with the agreement of the Brigade Council, District Inspector Michael Hunt was to be dealt with. Michael Hunt was shot dead in Liberty Square on June 23, 1919 on a Monday evening. Because of this, the RIC wanted to get Mixie for it. And Lahey told him to leave for a while, but Mixie said he won't go. One day, a soldier came into the premises to sell his gun to Lahey. Lahey hid the gun away, but Mixie never moved the gun that day. And the premises was raided by the RIC, and they found the gun, and Mixie was arrested in possession of illegal firearms. Mixie was sentenced to 9 months in prison in 1919, but his health was deteriorating when he went on hunger strike. Eventually, he was released from Mountjoy. When he got home, he was told he would be rearrested, so he decided to go on the run. Because in 1913, Parliament passed the Cat and Mouse Act. If a hunger striker is on the brink of death, they had to be released. But if their health is restored, they had to be rearrested. Later in 1919, Mixie was caught. At this time, the Brigade Council agreed to keep the business going. Now, Lahey was back at this point, and he would be in charge of the premises until Mixie is released. Following the trials and remands and sent back to Mountjoy prison, Mixie once again went on hunger strike for 9 days along with a few others to gain the status as POW in Mountjoy. Health of the prisoners deteriorated, especially Mixie's, and he and others were released and brought to St. Vincent Hospital. And Mixie was accidentally released from St. Vincent Hospital and went on the run. While on the run, Mixie was elected Sinn Féin of North Tipperary County Council in May 1920, and he was all clear of the Knocklong charges. Because the jury doesn't believe a man's pastime has anything to do with the case. He joined the flying column and was involved in the raid of the RIC barracks in 31st October 1920. But his premises were left abandoned because of the raids by the RIC and by the Black and Tans, because people were too scared to go in case the Black and Tans shoot them. But Mixie was caught again in November 1920 in his premises because an RIC man entered his premises and Mixie shot him, and he was arrested. But this arrest may have saved his life because he was on the Black and Tans hit list. Mixie was jailed in Limerick and Cork, then Spike Island. Well, the conditions was apparently atrocious, and it did badly affect his health, until he was released in December 1921. Mixie joined the National Army and took part in the early skirmishes against the Irish volunteers around Thurles in the early years of the Irish Civil War. He remained on the county council and opened a gun dealership in his premises in 1922. In 1936, Mixie died, probably because of the conditions in Spike Island. And that is that for now. So I will say like, subscribe, and slán.